So chanting the holy names, that is one thing, but then we should have the bhav, the consciousness, and have the proper understanding. So he was Siddhantavit, he was Rasa Tattvavit. And on no contribution, of course, as a great devotee, he was fully absorbed and attached to Krishna, and he was detached from this world. And therefore he was able to be very, very austere as he was doing Chaturmasvarat. Very austere, hardly first time I saw him in New York doing Chaturmasvarat, and I had never seen before anyone doing Chaturmas like he was doing. We were knowing that, Hare Krishna, we were knowing no spinach, no yogurt, no milk, no urad dal, that we all knew. But then to do something more austere, that was practically hardly unknown to anybody except during Kartik Mass. Some devotees, they were doing some austerity, but he was doing for 4 months. At that time I was in New York for a little visit, but I stayed there for 3 years. So he was doing Chandrayan Vrat. Anyone knows Chandrayan Vrat? So full moon it starts, we take the vow, and he had a full plate of khichdi. That's all he was eating. And also no ghee and no spices. No ghee and no spices. So and then it goes like this, that on the first day he was eating the full plate, and he had the hands behind on the back, and then he was having the plate on the floor, and he was going down, leaning forward and eating with his mouth only, not with the hand. And if somebody was going, "Hey Prabhuji," and he was coming up, then that was it, he was not allowed to eat more. So he was doing that vrat, and then towards the new moon he was eating less, and then from new moon to full moon again he was increasing a little amount. So extremely austere, and he used to lose so much weight. But he was able to do because of his absorption in Krishna consciousness. But then after Chaturmas, then he was taking nice Mahaprasad from Radha Govinda in New York, and he used to gain weight again. And he was a little chubby till Chaturmas, next Chaturmas, and then he was losing weight, and then again. So a very amazing personality. And one more contribution is that he had his own deity, Gonitai and Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, in the beginning only, these deities, and now of course he has 2,222 Shilas, something like that. How many exactly? 2,200? Something like this, above 2,000, and then beautiful Nitai Sachisuta big deities. And he was taking so much nice care of them, also again with bhav, with love and devotion, and spending hours serving them and hearing. There was one devotee, Ram Roy, who was also close to him, sometimes other devotees, and then he was reading about Krishna's pastimes from books which the neophyte devotees should not read, like Krishna Bhavanamrit, Govinda Lilamrit, which is about Radha Krishna's pastimes during the day and night. And Prabhupada is writing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the advanced devotees in one purport, they relish this book, Krishna Bhavanamrit, because it is about Radha Krishna's pastimes, and we have to be absorbed ultimately. So he was doing his deity worship, but then also he used to come on the altar and serve Radha Krishna. One time there was some strike by the devotees, pujaris. At that time I was not pujari yet. And they were not agreeing with the head pujari, and then they asked him also to help, to dress, and then he was dressing the deities maybe for 6-7 months. Very, very nicely. And that was a new kind of also style of dressing the deities. Mostly in ISKCON in the beginning, everything was a kind of straight, like Vaidhi Bhakti is straight, Vishnu is straight, everything is straight, hanging the cloth, the crown, everything is straight in Vaikuntha. But in Braj, Krishna is Tribang Lalit Shama Sundar. His form is bent in 3 places, very beautiful. And Krishna is speaking not always straight, but in a joking way or tricky way. in the relationship with the gopis. And then he's looking when he's with his parents and Radharani is there in the morning time. She's taking his breakfast. And then Radharani is cooking something and then offering some preparations. And Krishna is looking from the side of his eyes. So he had that bhav and he was hearing all these pastimes and therefore it was manifested in his seva when he was dressing the deities very nicely in Braj Bhav. And it was looking like, so when he was dressing, so for example, the chadars were not straight but little curved, it was looking natural. And the garland one time one side, as Krishna would be running one side and another time going towards Radharani, one time away from Radharani, and similarly also Radharani dressed in a special way. And then when he was dressing, it was like Radha Krishna, they were just dancing. And of course, Radharani, she's in Nritya Mudra. So like Radharani's hands are in a certain way. So that is dance posture. And Prabhupada used to say, Radharani is dancing here. And if Radharani stops dancing, then the whole show is finished. So because he was so much absorbed and knowledgeable, so therefore his seva to the deities was also first class and very enlivening. And then slowly actually all over the world, because then devotees, they were actually copying, and we learned from him also how to do it in that way. And so the Kirtan Mela is there, and practically we may say that Aindra Prabhu is by doing his Kirtan here, he was practically starting the Kirtan Mela, because when the great devotees are chanting, or even Prabhupada used to say in Vrindavan, every day is a festival. And when the advanced devotees are chanting, it is practically utsav, by when they're chanting the holy name, it is a festival. Therefore you can see when Aindra Prabhu was coming in the evening time, so then all the devotees, they were coming and it was a kind of festival and they were really enjoying because of the purity of Aindra Prabhu, the chanting and the hearing of the holy names. So I think the other devotees, so I have to stop here. We could go on, but we have to stop here. But fond memories are there of Aindra Prabhu, such a wonderful.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. His Grace Aindra Prabhu ki. I will speak very short because there are many more devotees here who had much more association with His Grace Aindra Prabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya on the pretext of performing the rites for his deceased father, then we know at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai at that time, he met Ishvara Puri. And Ishvara Puri said something to him in no uncertain terms, a very, very powerful message. Ishvara Puri told Nimai, Murkha tumi tomar nahik vedantadikar, Krishna mantra japa sada, ei mantra sar. Ishvara Puri looked at Mahaprabhu, Nimai, and said, Murkha tumi, you're a fool. Tomar nahik vedantadikar, you don't have any adhikar, you don't have any qualification to study Vedanta. Krishna mantra japa sada, just take the name of Krishna all the time. Ei mantra sar, this is the essence of all mantras. And in this way, Nimai underwent a shift of consciousness. And perhaps His Grace Aindra Prabhu became the mouthpiece of this mantra, because at every opportunity he would tell the world, Murkha tumi, you're a fool. You don't have qualification to do anything, just chant Krishna's names. And this was the message of Aindra Prabhu's life, bringing us back to the essence of what Ishvara Puri told Mahaprabhu. But not just that, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then took that instruction from Ishvara Puri and he went away and began chanting the holy names. And then what did he do? He returned and he came back to Ishvara Puri. And he said, Kiba mantra dila gosai, kibe tarabal, japite japite mantra, korite pagal. That what kind of mantra have you given me? Japite japite mantra, I'm chanting it again and again. Korite pagal, and I'm becoming completely mad. And the second dimension of Aindra Prabhu's life is that he was not just giving this message that Ishvara Puri gave to Nimai, but he was also demonstrating what Nimai felt when he came back to Ishvara Puri, the madness, the absorption, the complete inundation of one's consciousness in the holy vibration of Harinam. And so Aindra Prabhu, he really became the embodiment, someone who was a living example of someone who was absorbed in the holy name. And therefore, his kirtan, his instruction had the power to really penetrate so many people's hearts and continues to do so. We can understand the greatness of a personality not simply by the influence that they have in their lifetime, but by the growing influence that they have even after they've left this world. That is the sign of someone who is profound, powerful, and completely empowered in that way. So Srila Prabhupada, once he told Tribhuvanath Prabhu, Krishna consciousness is so simple. It's so simple, you may just miss it. So we're so fortunate that the great souls have come to the world and through their life and precept have reminded us of the simple truths of Krishna consciousness, that when all is said and done, what will count at the end of the day is how much faith, taste, absorption, and genuine attachment one has for the holy name of Krishna. And for this, we bow to Aindra Prabhu and offer our most humble gratitude for his incredible service that has created such an influence within Srila Prabhupada's movement. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. His Grace Aindra Prabhu ki.
Please allow me to offer each of you my humble obeisances. I'm very happy to be here, very happy to see the release of this book. It is the culmination of many years of effort from many devotees. It is not out of humility that, as Prabhu so kindly said, that my name did not have to appear on it, but actually there were half a dozen names that could just as easily be there. It was such a collaborative effort among devotees. And for me, that is part of what made it such a joyful, sometimes challenging experience. The association of these devotees, each of which have individual perspectives. I imagine myself more, not so much the writer, actually I hope I am transparent in the book, just a medium to communicate others' words, with the exception of one section of my editing of his book. But like a weaver, and weaving all these threads, these multicolored threads, and each of the threads is another voice that we hear. And then like a beautiful tapestry, there is of course a golden thread that is going through it. And that golden thread is the voice of Aindra Prabhu. The book is so many quotes from him and others. It is not a hagiography. It is not a mythological glorification of Aindra Prabhu. The attempt is to tell his story, And of course, that's not a story I can tell. It is a combination, just like each perspective, each devotee. We need all of those perspectives to see the full picture. And of course, I think the best person to tell Aindra Prabhu's story is Aindra himself. And so there are so many quotes from him. The book, it is really, I hope that he will come alive through these in the book. Some of you knew Aindra Prabhu for many years. I think some of you from the time maybe that you were born. Certainly for so long. I only first had association with Aindra through his kirtan in 1999 when I was here with his family, with my family, excuse me. And maybe I know some of you from that time. And then through the years, my wife and I, brought several groups of students to do seva in Sri Vrindavan Dham, where they were serving at Sandapani Muni School, at the Bhaktivedanta Hospice, at the orphanage that was going on this time. It was not until maybe 9 years later that Bhagavat Purana Prabhu introduced me personally to Aindra. At that time, his book was in pretty, it was almost complete. Most of it was already there. For the last 40 years, I've been university professor in America of writing and literature. And so I was introduced to him one evening after the kirtan, and I went through the most rigorous job interview of my life. He asked me every question imaginable, and it seemed to me he was not satisfied with one answer I could give. I had edited so many books by devotees, and whatever I said, he was just not impressed. But I don't know, somehow he allowed me to come. He asked me, well, what would it take to get you to come edit my book? And I just said, a round-trip ticket. Actually, I think he wanted to get me a one-way ticket. Because from the first time, he was already, what is going on in your life that's so important? I have 3 children, a wife. And he was saying, no, come here and live your life here. You're wasting your time in the material world. Prabhu, you don't understand. And especially, my wife is really my partner in Krishna consciousness. I owe her so much in my advancement. So maybe it was 6 months or so later, he had me, he flew me out here, and for the next 3 weeks, every day, all day, from morning until the kirtan in the evening, we sat together in his room. It was, I'm not sure what month, but it was quite warm. And a sign was put up on the door, like skull and crossbones, danger, heavy editing in process. And really, he didn't want to be interrupted by anything. It was, my 3 weeks with him can't compare to so many years of association that many of you have had. But I will say it was the most beautiful, intense 3 weeks of my life. I can never forget those times. And it seemed that suddenly, I just had the best friend in the world. I would sometimes have to wake him up in the morning, just, all right, Prabhu, it's time. And we went steady. We sat in front of his computer, huddled together, tight. It was so hot, and that room was so stifling. And you know how it is here. At that time, especially, the electricity was definitely off more than it was on. And we were pulling up our dhotis, pulling up, the kurtas coming up. Eventually, things are coming off. At one point, I actually got a rash on my shoulder. We were rubbing against each other so much, huddled over this computer. We went through every single word. He read aloud every word of the manuscript to me, and I would interrupt him for, any comments I made. And he did not take anything easily, I should say. Anything I questioned, he double questioned. I mean, me. And I really had to convince him of anything, and I could actually convince him of relatively little, I would say. It was a little, the book at the time, it was, if you know the book, it is blazing with intensity. It was even more extreme before. Pages and pages of capital letters, followed by like a whole row of exclamation points, like this. And we were an odd couple, I have to say. I mean, in my own world, in my life, I'm a little bit out there maybe, but compared to Aindra Prabhu, I was the straight man. I was playing the straight man all the way. But every point we got to, he took the time to explain to me. And I tell you, I understood so little, and he had to explain so much. He was so merciful in this. Not once did he ever make me feel that I was lacking in knowledge or lacking in realization, when we both knew that, really I had neither. Only he was, we were working together on this. He was so intent on the book that even going to the evening kirtan, I would have to, like, Prabhu, it's time. Got to get down there. I would be watching the clock. He was like, just one more, not one more minute, one more sentence, he would keep on. And then he said, all right, you go down there, I'll be down there soon. And coming down to the kirtan before him, I would say, I've never received such a wonderful welcome. Not because it was me, but because if I came, everyone knew that Aindra was coming soon. And it was a wonderful experience for me. Every word he questioned, and he was never wrong about the meaning of a word. He did not use like a Merriam-Webster dictionary like that. He used the Oxford English Dictionary, which I think is maybe 15 volumes like this, and it has the entire history of every word in the dictionary. And often he was using not the common or the second or the third definition, but a definition, this word comes from 17th century, and, this is what I'm using. And so that explains some of the style of it as well. We got into a bit of a competitive game with each other about the pronunciation of the names. And the dictionary has a function where it would tell you. And so first he would say his pronunciation, I would say my pronunciation, and then we would play the dictionary pronunciation. And he kept score on the side, who was winning on the pronunciation. I don't remember the result, but it was quite wonderful. And I was saying it became, because maybe, for different factors, we were together for so long, together alone every day. Devotees would sometimes come in, but he really didn't want to be distracted so much. But it went all the way back to our childhood. And I think in some sense, me coming from the outside, if I can say, allowed him to open up about some things of his times before Krishna consciousness, matters that he might not discuss so much with other devotees. And we found with him growing up in the middle of the countryside in Virginia, and me growing up in the middle of New York City, in some ways our backgrounds could not have been more different, and yet we had these parallel experiences. We're not so far in age, and we were listening to the same music. We were, the same cultural impact on us. He talked quite a bit about his father and me about my father and growing up. And I know I told him things that I had never told anyone before. I cannot say it for him, but it seemed that he was able to express himself in a different way as well. And there were many tears that both of us shed at this time, and much laughter as well. But it was just such a beautiful and intimate experience for sure. I'm hoping that this book Aindra Prabhu was a legend. He was a legend while he was here. And I think with extraordinary personalities especially, there is a tendency to sort of, their legend grows. And we almost mythologize them. They became bigger and bigger. And especially so many devotees didn't have personal association. Their association was through his kirtan. Many have not met him personally, but through his recordings as well. And I think that sometimes, although our philosophy is personalist, that sometimes we forget that devotees are people too. That we all have our own backgrounds, our own upbringings, our own emotions, our own thoughts. And I guess it is my hope that this book will help humanize Aindra Prabhu, that will help show him as a person, as a human being. Both so the reader can know him better, and also I think that can be very inspiring. Because it's one thing if only this great personality can do some things, can have some advancement, but it's another human being too. And he achieved it, in part from who he was, but also just by determination and hard work, by his austerities, as Prabhu was mentioning. It did not come easily to him. It's a lifetime of effort, a lifetime of determination, and a lifetime of incredible loyalty despite so many challenges to Srila Prabhupada and to Srila Prabhupada's mission of ISKCON. He helped keep so many devotees within the ISKCON family, so many who wanted to leave. I just want to mention also the focus will often be on Aindra Prabhu's kirtan. But just to mention, his amazing service as a pujari and in dressing the deities, and his style of dressing, which became quite influential as well. And he created, I'm sure many of you know, I guess what I might call a tableau vivant. So a tableau, it's like a scene, but it's vivant, it's alive. So through the flowing of the fabrics, the flowers, it's all in motion. And it's like a painting that has come to life, a scene. Here is Radha Krishna come to life before us through this style of dress. I think that was one of the most astounding, amazing things I've ever seen. When one comes to really know someone, to know them not just from the outside, but to know their story as they tell it as well. If we really understand each other, really all of the motivations that we have, all of the reasons, all of the joys, all of the suffering, all of the history, all of everything, how can one not come to love that person? And so it is really my hope that through his story, devotees and others as well will come to know him better, come to understand him better, and as I have, just come to love him in a real way as a person and as a devotee. Please forgive me my offenses. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Kalajanji, for coming all the way to Vrindavan. Remember the incident where I was commissioned by Aindra Prabhu to get your ticket? And the travel agent from Mathura, Northern India, the H is emphasized a lot more. He misspelled his name because the way he heard it on the phone from Aindra Prabhu and then the way he typed it out, and there was a problem with the boarding pass and the passport name wasn't matching, but you made it. What a mission. So I'm just going to read a translation from the bhajan, one of the bhajans we sang. O Venerable Vaishnava, O Ocean of Mercy, be merciful unto your servant. Give me the shade of your lotus feet and purify me. I hold onto your lotus feet. Teach me to control the 6 passions, rectify my 6 faults, bestow upon me the 6 qualities, and offer unto me the 6 kinds of holy association. I do not find any strength to carry on alone the Sankirtan of the holy name of Hari. Please bless me by giving me just 1 drop of faith with which to obtain the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. And I am simply running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna. That was from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Ohe Vaishnava Thakura. So earlier in the year, there was the Disappearance Day program. Akinchana Prabhu was here emceeing. You asked me to make an offering, which we ran out of time. So I'm going to read that offering, if that's all right. How much time do we have? Okay. Dear Sripad Aindra Prabhu, please accept my humble dandavats. All glories to your life, time, commitment to the performance of Harinam Sankirtan for Yuga Dharma. On the auspicious occasion of Hira Panchami, on the day that Lakshmi Devi tries to enter Gundicha, which represents Vrindavan, you left the material body and departed to your spiritual body in your spiritual form to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Nitai Sachi Sutta. How did you do it? 24 years straight in Vrindavan Dham. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige. One should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. That's how Aindra Prabhu did it. You had no interest in name, fame, profit, adoration, and distinction. You were a very, very strict devotee in the renounced order, sometimes wearing almost white cloth, like a pure swan-like Paramahamsa. Not the cause that cloth to wear was not in the renounced ashram. You were living your life exemplary, like the Goswamis. Your only interest was in the absorption of the Yuga Dharma. Some puja seva at the same time. You did have a kind of schedule, I asked you once. Yes, you told me, to chant as many rounds as possible within 24 hours. And not to be too late for your kirtan schedule. And then puja last. Was it a fixed schedule? No, it was a moving, rolling schedule. On many occasions, not even allowing time to honor Mahaprasadam, what to speak about sleeping. Your expression in your life example, by your commitment to Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON, for better or for worse, was unwavering. Like an adopted child witnessing countless so-called caretakers over the time of 24 years in ISKCON Vrindavan's temple management, you never missed your seva. On one occasion, I recall you coming down late with the impressions of a floor mat on the side of his cheek. And he was almost crying, actually. I'd missed my service. I missed my shift. I asked what happened. He said, I just crashed out. I was just exhausted. So I quickly ran to the devotee who was announced for Bhagavad Gita class, and we begged him to cancel his class, and then Aindra Prabhu did kirtan at that time, after Gora Arti, that shift. You let it rip many times. I can't even recall all of them. You continue to inspire so many far and wide, within and without the society. The 7th verse of Shishashtikam kind of summarizes my feeling for Aindra Prabhu. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. Yes, it's been 12 years. It's a very long time. Aindra Prabhu has not been with us. I know many devotees in the world, they would just come to Vrindavan for Kartik and sit in Prabhu's kirtans. That was their Kartik. And many of them told me they come to Vrindavan, it feels very different. Anyway, that's something they have to work through. It's a very glorious, wonderful offering. Let there be many more books glorifying Aindra Prabhu. I hope in the future others will share their personal memories. I hope Govinda Prabhu and Madhava and many others will come forward and share their hearts in relationship to Aindra Prabhu. Of course, there are many, many devotees who served before our generation, the first generation, Nandanandam Prabhu, Gopinath Prabhu, Sailendra Krishna, Nanda Chaitanya, Nitai Prabhu, many. They sacrificed unbelievable amounts of service to keep this 24-hour kirtan going forward. And of course, it's mentioned in the book that in the early days, devotees were doing 8 hours of kirtan, 4 and 4, 2 shifts. Gopinath Prabhu told me he'd finish his shift and the pujaris would grab him. You have second initiation, come, cook, change, shower, quick, offering. Then he'd cook, make the offering, do the arati, and jump off the altar and do kirtan. Full absorption. That's what life in Vrindavan means. So if there's any questions, I'll take a question. If anyone has anything they want to ask about this book. I've read it about 4 times. Anyone? Who's going to buy a copy? I'm going to buy 10. I've got many people asking me, get me a copy. Let this, yes, please. Is there a microphone? You want me to share how I came to live in Vrindavan and my relationship with Aindra Prabhu? I first met Aindra Prabhu, my first kirtan with him was in 1989. My father and my older brother came to Vrindavan. And I distinctly remember arriving in Delhi and being intrigued by this as a young child. This is the land of Krishna. And waking up from the back seat of the ambassador a few times, asking my father, are we in Vrindavan yet? Are we in Vrindavan yet? And then I distinctly remember the turn from the Chatikar Road, which is now Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg, and seeing trees and peacocks, and yes, we're in Vrindavan. And then sitting in Aindra Prabhu's kirtan, not even sitting, Prabhupada's Samadhi was a construction site with big wooden poles and monkeys and scaffolding, and going in from the side entrance where the information center is, and then entering the courtyard is very beautiful, actually, entering Krishna Balaram temple, and just hearing that sound vibration immediately penetrated my heart, like I'd never heard that holy name ever before. Very pure, very clear, and with prema, Shuddhanam. And then as entering by Prabhupada and Gaura-Nitai's side, turning and looking, who's chanting? And Aindra Prabhu was playing a mridanga. One devotee was playing kartals. He was playing mridanga. He had gloves on. And with his eyes shut, red beard, and just singing from the heart. That really touched me as a 9-year-old child. And then later, and it's in the book, but Vrindavan Yatra is Srila Prabhupada's home. So Vrindavan really feels like home, and it really felt like home being with Aindra Prabhu, very much. We had an interesting relationship. He used to call himself Angry Uncle Aindra to me. You're always welcome to come and speak to Angry Uncle Aindra. Yes, Aindra Prabhu cannot be contained in one book, in one volume, actually. A lot of details, a lot of deep. He's a very deep sadhu. I'll try and conclude. But I recall asking him, I said to him in the later years, not too long before he left his body, Krishna consciousness can be really difficult. And he says, come on, it's easy, Gopal. If I can do it, you can do it. You kids born in the movement, you're miles ahead of me. And I said, no, you're being humble. He says, no, really, I'm a malecha. I've eaten meat. I've eaten holy cow. You know how sinful that is? He was really feeling, I could understand he was feeling very humble about his position in the world. And he really actually took a very humble position a week before he left his body. Adi Keshav Prabhu was going to use the public toilet facilities around the back of the guest house. And Aindra Prabhu was in there with a coconut broom and some acid cleaning the public toilets. I dare question if anyone would have that level of humility to do that. Put a gamsha on and go clean the public toilets. And Adi Keshav was like, whoa, what are you doing, Prabhu? Which is the public toilets. He says, yeah, this is disgusting. How can we offer this to the guests that come to our temple? And plus, I'm just a fallen Kali Yuga reject. That was his mood. So very humble, really, really living an exemplary life of Trinada Pisunechana, not thinking that he's the senior man, the senior devotee. Another one of the brahmacharis in the ashram, using the same toilet facilities, the same showers. And in his entire time in Vrindavan was in that room, in that brahmachari ashram. Very rarely left that room. Later in the years, some invitations here and there for kirtan programs, but he lived his entire time in the brahmachari ashram, very strict, very strictly following, very chaste, very loyal. The only time he left was when he came and stayed with me in Mayapur. That's a whole nother story. But very exemplary, and I encourage the next generation, as we're all aging rapidly, the next generation's coming up, make a commitment in your life. Join the ashram, move in, shave up, get up for Mangalarti, do the program. You can only gain. There's no loss in doing that. And you'll inspire many others to do the same. Aindra Prabhu has inspired generations of kirtan devotees around the world. He didn't realize that. I tried to explain that to him once, how he was affecting and impacting devotees' lives around the world with his chanting. And it didn't really register to him, of course, in his own humility. So that's my humble request to the next generation. And I do hope and pray that the Matajis, you'll get a chance to come up for darshan on Gopastami. We'll discuss with the management, Govinda Prabhu and others, maybe it's possible you can come and take darshan on that day. That's usually what happens on Gopastami. Okay, yes, it's in the book. You'll have to read it. That story's there, I hope. It's there, yeah. So yeah, that kirtan, very spontaneous, it then became an annual event to do kirtan on Bahulastami nights at Radhakund. Any closing thing anyone wants to add or say? Pavanitachan? Yeah, so please come forward, support the departments, come and chant Matajis. There's Prabhupada's Samadhi, Kirtan is there as well. And come and join in the 24-hour Kirtan. You don't need to lead to chant Hare Krishna. It's not that. Chanting Hare Krishna means getting behind a microphone and leading. You can chant and participate and have a wonderful Kartik. And please purchase a copy and buy another copy for a friend as a gift, Kartik gift. It's only 300 rupees today. It's very affordable. And come and support 24 Hours Kirtan's department's effort to spread the Yuga Dharma by performing Harinam Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol.
It's been a long road to get to this point. I'm very happy that we've finally gotten here. Gopal called me, I think about 11 years ago. We started the Yadavendra Prabhu and Gopal, I remember the meeting in your house, to make a book about Aindra Prabhu. It's kind of a tall order. It's not an easy subject matter in many respects. There have been a lot of different angles of vision, a lot of different understandings of how to proceed. Usually I'm like kind of an easygoing person. On this project, I have not always been an easygoing person. I've had like very strong opinions on many things, and I've like expressed those opinions very strongly. Please forgive me for that. I had read a full draft some years ago, and then just got my copy a few days ago. I started from maybe 2/3 in and went to the end. And I have to say, I think it's very nice. I'm very pleased with how it's came out. My value in this project has always been that I would like Aindra presented as he is. There's basically three main sources that Kalachandji Prabhu has nicely compiled. We have a couple hundred hours of Aindra speaking, like in lectures, in room conversations, his own words. We have his book, and then we collected interviews from many devotees that were associated with Aindra and heard from them and heard their memories. I think I interviewed probably about 70 devotees, and others were interviewed beyond what I did as well. And so those kind of three sources have been weaved together to make this book. I'm starting to get a little bit of feedback from some devotees. It's always been very important to me that the devotees that were very close to Aindra would feel satisfied. And maybe I shouldn't say people's names, but already people that were like among the closest to Aindra are giving very nice feedback. One very important devotee, he told me, I think it's fantastic. He read about halfway through it so far. Maybe I can say I met Kadambakanana Maharaj on the road the other day, and he said, yeah, I really feel the voice of Aindra in this book. I was reading it, I said, yeah, that's him. So that's very nice. I read the memories that Kalachandji Prabhu just shared. He also described that in the book, just appreciating the incredible mercy that Kalachandji got of the association he had with Aindra. Aindra Prabhu was, that book, The Heart of Transcendental Book Distribution, that was like the culmination of his years in Krishna consciousness. He was expressing so many of his most intimate thoughts and realizations. That's like, those are the things he really wanted to share with the devotees. And imagine Kalachandji Prabhu was like privately with Aindra for several weeks, all day long, combing through the whole thing, going through it line by line. So actually we're very lucky to have such a person to have put this book together. And anyway, I'm very hopeful. I hope that devotees will feel inspired and enthused. Aindra Prabhu is a very, very exceptional personality, someone that is very inspiring to devotees. And I pray that this book, first of all, is pleasing to Aindra Prabhu, and that it also can serve to inspire others, by becoming more acquainted with who he is and what he had to say, and the experiences of people who were associated with him. So maybe I'll just leave it there. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Over the years, when people would talk to me about Aindra Prabhu, sometimes this word came out, that Aindra Prabhu was eccentric. And it almost became like an acceptable thing that Aindra Prabhu was eccentric, to the point where even, it's almost like you believe it, you just understand that that's his nature. But then, as we were editing the book, I looked up the word eccentric in the dictionary. And the word eccentric means someone who has no central anchor. It's just like, someone who can wake up in the morning and decide that I want to wear a pink sock and a blue sock. Why? Just. But Aindra Prabhu wasn't like that, actually. When we really deeply analyze his nature, his central anchor was scripture. Everything Aindra Prabhu did, he took very seriously in the scriptures, and you'll be able to see this in the biography. He was an artist, so his expressions were very colorful, for sure. but he will come to understand that he wasn't an eccentric person as per se. Aindra Prabhu was one of ISKCON's biggest revolutionaries, and one sannyasi actually said to me that, in fairness, and not to take anything away from anybody, because I know that so many great devotees have contributed a lot to this movement. But he said, since Srila Prabhupada, for me, Aindra is the greatest revolutionary. And that's why this book has been called Kirtan Revolution. Because we were sitting with Burijan Prabhu the other day, Kalachandji Prabhu and myself, and Burijan Prabhu said Kirtan Revolution, and then he said Kirtan Revolutionary. But a revolutionary is almost like he can create a revolution himself, but the deeper understanding is that Aindra Prabhu wanted the revolution not just to be from him, but to be from everybody. Everybody should be involved to create that revolution in their own way. We may not be able to do what Aindra Prabhu did because he's such a great personality. But even if we can create like something small, bring devotees in our centers and where we live, if we don't live in Vrindavan, but really offer something to Kirtan. I often wondered, because I didn't know Aindra Prabhu as well as so many people, like Gopal Prabhu had very close association. But I had intimate association, but I didn't know like a lot about Aindra Prabhu. But his past, I was always interested to know what will his past be like. And I can tell you his past is so interesting. And not just that he was a hippie or he was a rebel and then he came to Krishna consciousness, but there's something very, very unique about his past. And that makes a really, really good read if you start from the beginning and go all the way to the end. So it was a pleasure and fortune to read this book, to be part of this book. I know that when anyone writes a book, sometimes they go through this thing, right? That it's, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life and all of these things. But honestly, I can say there were moments which were very, very challenging. But more than anything else, it has been an absolute honor to be part of this book. I remember Ram Roy Prabhu contacted me in 2012, and he said that, there's a devotee who thinks there should be a biography about Aindra Prabhu. And I actually did think for many years that, there would be one, but I never thought that I would really be part of it in any way, because I wasn't the closest person to him. I just had, what I consider a decent amount of association. So it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to be part of this amazing journey. And now, the question is, why should people read this book? And I can give 3 reasons. First is that even though Aindra Prabhu was American, he earned the respect of the Brijbasis. Saints, and even just the Brijbasi saints and the common people of Vrindavan, especially those he interacted with, they really appreciated him. I remember when Aindra Prabhu passed away and we had the fortune of coming, and I went to the bookshop. I went to the Bogawala, who Aindra Prabhu used to go to sometimes. And I said, he just asked me, he goes, "Oh, you've come at this time," because I normally wouldn't come at that time. And I said, "Haji Prabhu, I said, Aindra Prabhu chale gaye." In Hindi, I said, "Aindra Prabhu's left." And he just shook his head and he goes, "Aur sab ISKCON mein lene ke liye aaye hai, lekin Aindra Prabhu dene ke liye aaye the." And translated, that means that everybody else has come to take from ISKCON, but Aindra Prabhu came to give to ISKCON. And I know that there's so many people who give to ISKCON, and in my heart I understand that most devotees are just giving to ISKCON. We know that. But this was the perception of a simple vegetable wala, right? even when you go to Loi Bazaar, people have something to say about Aindra Prabhu, their interactions with him. So to get a sage of Vrindavan to remember Aindra Prabhu, even some people from Barsana, some great sages from Barsana, very learned, they came and said that we want to get a copy in Hindi of Aindra Prabhu's book, if there is one. And that's very, very rare coming from them. So that's the first reason. Second is there are many devotees who often wonder, like, how do I go deep in my own spiritual life? We've been in this movement for 5 years, 15 years, 20 years. But surely, how do we go deep? But then sometimes we question, are we qualified? Are we not qualified? And even though that's the case, Aindra Prabhu gave amazing hope to those people. So if anyone wants to understand how to do deep bhakti, what Aindra Prabhu would often call Raganuga bhakti, it's almost like he laid out the breadcrumbs and someone has to follow them. He made it almost seem like it's possible for someone like me to do. Otherwise, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't think it would be possible. Honestly, that's how I felt. And that's how many people who understood him felt as well, that we almost have a very nice path to follow. And it's unfortunate that when Aindra Prabhu's book was released, his own book, The Heart of Transcendental Book Distribution, I asked so many friends, did you read the book? And honestly, I can probably count on 2 hands how many people have read the book from start to finish and understood at least 70 to 80%. That I know, there may be more. But the difficulty was the words, like what Kalachandji Prabhu was saying, right? Like when if anyone thinks that they'll just go through the first 4 pages of Aindra Prabhu's book, your mind hurts, your brain hurts after the first 4 pages because of the words. There's like 6 words in a sentence out of 8, which you may not even understand. And sometimes, the full stop comes at the end of the paragraph. So you have to go through the whole thing, and it's not easy. It's because, we're used to just such simple English. And it's so ironic that, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil something from the book, but Aindra Prabhu couldn't understand the Sri Ishopanishad when he first got it. He had to have a dictionary with him. And he had to understand. And when he understood the book, because he goes, my English was like slum English. It was so less than adequate. And here is somebody who was able to write a book which had such deep meanings, but words which were very difficult to comprehend at the same time. So I'm just really hoping that this book inspires people once again to really give the Heart of Transcendental Book Distribution another go. It is difficult, but if you can go through it, it's the most amazing book that has been written in modern times for someone who's looking for some depth. The third reason is that Bhagavatam is extremely nice and Krishna Leela is extremely nice. But I think many devotees agree that when you read the life of saints, somehow it ends up being almost slightly sweeter than even Krishna Katha, sometimes. And so I really encourage people to read this book. This book has the ability to take you into a very, very deep place, especially if you have a little bit of affection and an open heart for Aindra Prabhu. I want to mention just some people who I wish to thank. And before I say that, one important point. Many times when you get close to a person, you start seeing a few cracks, you think of them as something like big, wonderful, then you get close to them, and you're like, okay, they're a little bit normal as well, and, there might be a few things which you might not do. It might not be in your nature to do certain things the way they do them. But I always found with Aindra Prabhu that the closer you got to him, the more impressed you became. he, I probably had that relationship with him where I wasn't extremely close in the sense spending day and night with him for long periods of time. Or there was 2 weeks where I literally spent 10 days with him continuously out of those 2 weeks. And every evening till like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And some really amazing things came from him. But it's just, he became more and more impressive. Without taking too much more time, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to the following people. Akinchana Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. He's been an absolute pillar in this entire project. He was the main person who took all the interviews and he was there editing. And I want to say that Prabhu, whatever offenses and mistakes I've made, I'm very sorry. Second is Gopal Prabhu. I think he gave the most content from anybody in the book, and really made the book like the core come out. There were some things, sorry if I'm overstepping the mark, but there were some things which he told me, and I told him, Prabhu, they should go in the book, and he says, no, those are confidential, and they should remain confidential. So, but if anyone wants to know those confidential things, maybe you should go and speak to him, and if his heart feels that you're genuine, he might share those things with you. I want to thank Mahabhagavat Prabhu. Just when I thought the book was done, there were so many years when I thought the book will finish now. 2018, I would be like, Kalachandji Prabhu once just wrote to me and he said, Prabhu, I think it's done. And I was literally sitting there going, yes, the book is done, 2018. And it took 4 years from the time that Kalachandji Prabhu said the book is done. And what happened was when we showed obviously the draft to the team, which was Gopal Prabhu, Kalachandji Prabhu, Akinchan Prabhu, and then suddenly along came Mahabhagavat Prabhu and he said, Prabhu, no. There is so much more information which all of you are missing. And I said, okay, Prabhu, can you give us, how long do you need? He goes, Prabhu, minimum, like 3-4 months. And I said, okay, Prabhu, but not much longer. And 3 months came and he said, Prabhu, just a little bit more time, and a little bit more time. And he took about 1.5 years to get everything together that he wanted to say. And then he gave it to Kalachandji Prabhu, who obviously, because he was like more than 100 pages of information, and Kalachandji Prabhu took time. Then we sent it to everybody. And honestly, even in the last minute, there was a little bit of a hiccup just 2-3 weeks before. And that was like really nerve-wracking because we had to change something just at the press 3 weeks before today. But it's absolutely fine because we're doing something for a great soul. I want to mention Danudar Maharaj, because Danudar Maharaj was our voice of reason. In 2013, he spoke to me and he said, just tell me that, just empower me, not that I can empower any sannyasi, but in his humility, he said, just empower me and I'll do everything for you. He was so enthusiastic because he understood what Aindra Prabhu meant for this movement. And he was always a voice of reason throughout, and he made some amazing contribution to the book, and I thank Maharaj from the bottom of my heart. I thank Ram Roy Prabhu, who introduced this project. He's been, always like people went to him to talk to him about this book, what should be said, what should not be said. And so I thank him, even though he can't be with us today, he's very much there in spirit. And he's serving Aindra Prabhu in his way in New York, doing kirtan over there. And last but not least from the team, I thank Kalachandji Prabhu. Kalachandji Prabhu he's probably the only person actually that could have kind of put everything together. Because Aindra Prabhu's, I'm just going to say this, Aindra Prabhu's followers, his closest people, you're dealing with people from completely different places of the world. You've got very strong personalities, you've got people who have very strong opinions about things, and it's fine, it's great, But each person has their vision on how Aindra Prabhu should be presented. And that's their love for him. And to put all of that together, right? It needs someone who is very sound. It needed someone senior. Like, for example, if I had turned around and said, I'm going to write the book, right? It just wouldn't have come out, right? For many reasons. But we needed someone who was mature, someone who came from that background, someone who had edited Aindra Prabhu's own book. And to hear everybody out, and hear Gopal Prabhu out, hear myself out, hear Akinchan Prabhu out, and all the people that contributed. So Prabhu, this wouldn't have been possible, and you're just the greatest blessing for this project in so many ways. I want to thank somebody who's sitting over here, the quiet hero in the last few weeks. His name is Trikalagya Prabhu. He's done every small thing, from storing the books to bringing the books over here to bringing people from the press over here with the help of so many people. But anything little that I wanted, practical things, he's just literally, I told him you should wear a Superman cape, because he can just do absolutely anything. I tell him, Prabhu, I need this, and he just does it within just a couple of minutes. He was the director of ISKCON Vrindavan for quite some time, and now he's still doing a lot of amazing Braj Seva. I also want to thank Inward Publishers, Pranada Mataji and Bhakti Rasa Mataji. They were the ones who published, but amazing patience from them. The design of the book came from them. There was an amazing, so a lot of you may look at this cover and think this is a picture of Aindra Prabhu. It's not. This is a painting of a picture of Aindra Prabhu. And there's this amazing artist called Kishori, and we had to approach her because we loved the picture, but the picture resolution wasn't good. We just couldn't get it to the standard. So then I proposed, let's get it painted. And people are like, you're crazy. How can you get a picture painted? But there's actually, she stood there with pencil art. She came to this, and then we actually managed to put a cover. And so this came. I know that there are so many people who had much closer, deeper association with Aindra Prabhu than I did. I'm just grateful for whatever I had with him. We always want more, but if I'm honest, whatever I got from him was just beyond my expectations. So I'm so happy with that. But some of them couldn't be here today, and it's unfortunate, but I'm hoping that they're there with us in spirit. Please help me spread this book. It's my appeal to anybody who is here. This book, I honestly feel, I've been in ISKCON all my life. But I feel that this book can change ISKCON in so many ways. I honestly do. But I need help. And so I'm appealing to devotees that please spread the word. I'm extremely ambitious as a person, and I wish that 100,000 copies of this book are read by devotees. And someone can say, did you just pull that number out from nowhere? No. There's at least 1 million ISKCON devotees, and we wish for 10% to read this book. I don't know if that's too ambitious or not. But if you can take books, if you can help distribute them, buy them. So today the cost of the book is only 300 rupees, and I'm very happy to openly say that's pretty much the cost of production. It's a special price for today. After today, we will be distributing the book through official channels. BBT Sarang Thakur Prabhu has agreed. I think he'll be selling the book for 450 rupees just in the shops in this temple complex. And we're requesting all devotees to just keep this fixed price of 450 rupees, which for the quality of the book and the size of the book is not so much. If anyone wants to buy wholesale, please come and talk to me. You'll get really good pricing for it. We're going to have Amazon copies. In fact, this morning, someone just ordered a copy on Amazon, and we'll have it up, as in pre-ordered it, and we'll have the copies up very soon. We intend to send the book to international locations, and honestly, it's again just pricing plus shipping costs. which are a little bit expensive these days, but whatever that is, we hope to give it for that amount. If anyone wants to be a point of contact for international, so let's say you come from New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, wherever you come from, doesn't matter. If you feel that even 20 devotees would be interested to read this book, please come up to me after the program, and you can say that, I wish to take 20 books, or I wish to be the point of contact. We'll send books to you, and you can then distribute it to other people. Okay, there's a feast straight after this, and this feast was sponsored by Satyam Mittal Prabhu and other well-wishers. So we request everybody, it's a special feast, very nice items. We went to the kitchen and said, please, it's Bahulashtami, please have something, please prepare something wonderful. So the request is all of you please have prasad. And I end and conclude today's official part of the ceremony by offering some words to Aindra Prabhu. And so I request everyone to please close their eyes, and as I just read 2 to 3 minutes of an offering. And please, this offering I feel echoes the sentiments for a lot of people. Okay? So please let us join together in this prayer of words to Aindra Prabhu. I offer my obeisances to Sripad Aindra Prabhu, who thundered the holy name through the hearts of those of us whose hearts were wandering in the driest of unholy lands. I offer my deepest respects to Sripad Aindra Prabhu, who lived and died in Vrindavan, echoing the ancient power of living amongst the holy particles of Vrindavan Dham. I offer my obeisances to the holy feet of our dear Aindra Prabhu, who became the shining star for so many youth seeking truth, deep association, and much needed mercy. I offer 1,000 obeisances to our loving Aindra Prabhu, whose presence made for us Vrindavan holy, Radha Shyam Sundar lively and lovely, and Kirtan mesmerizing. I dare say in Vrindavan 4:30 a.m. was auspicious, but when you came at 6:30 p.m., that felt very auspicious. I dare say when you were here in Vrindavan, it felt full, but when you left, though there are thousands today, we feel as though it's empty. Dear Aindra Prabhu, may you live in the heart of this temple for thousands of years to come. May you live as the force of inspiration for all devotees who do kirtan sincerely for the next 10,000 years. Please know that you are the hero for thousands of devotees around the world. You withdrew your body from this world too soon for most of us to bear. But please don't withdraw your mercy from us. Please keep us alive and shine in our hearts whenever possible. All glories to you, all glories to you, all glories to you, dear and most beloved Aindra Prabhu. Aindra Prabhu ki. I conclude this program. I'm sorry for taking so much time, and devotees now may move ahead and purchase the book. Hare Krishna. His Grace Aindra Prabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Jai Shri Radha.